So I stopped by my local electronics shop today and I picked up some 4-30 screws and nuts. That's all they had, only Imperial stuff. So let's pop one of these in. That looks excellent. So just gotta lather that in some super glue and I think it'll be alright. So I thought I'd just check this side, and that's still on there pretty solid. So this rivet's fine, and unfortunately I can't get the screw through the rivet hole. I have to take the rivet out to get the screw in, so I'm just going to leave this one. So I've just been taking a look at the turntable auto mechanism here, and this is the arm that selects between the off, manual, and auto positions. So it's in the manual position now. So the motor is running because of the switch is activated. Everything's fine so far. So this is the lever, and you'll notice that when I actuate it into the auto position, the only thing that actually happens is this second lever here that sits on the main lever, which is spring activated. So it pushes against this little metal tab here, but only so hard, it won't force it. And this bar with the metal tab on it that's supposed to slide, you can clearly see from this notch, it doesn't slide nearly as far as I'd expect it to. It's staying pretty much all the way towards one end of its travel. So because it's not moving, of course, the spring is just taking the load. So I'm starting to think it's possible that this lever, which terminates right into the spindle basically, is jammed possibly, and it's this lever that starts the mechanism, and if this doesn't move, then it doesn't work. So I'm gonna do a little bit more investigating and see what I can find. So I've just removed the platter and the rubber. It's just a simple circlip. Comes off, and oh god, it's a little nasty in here. So the first thing is the rubber wheel is actually in very good nick. It's actually rubbery. I'm not going to bend it too far. But it's not hockey puck, it's not cracked. So I'm actually really happy to see that. And I think with some lubrication of the mechanism, I might be able to get the speed back, which is really nice. Possibly dealing with the springs and stuff. And this is the mechanism which lifts the head, moves it over, all that stuff. And this is the gear that does it. And you try to turn this, and it's frozen. So this is the problem. This is completely seized. If I really reef on this, and I have, you can see the pin that lifts the tone arm up, that raises. So this is the mechanism, and it's totally seized. There we go. It's moving a little bit. So instead of the platter being seized, like a lot of these turntables are, it's this gear that's seized. So I see another circlip on the top here. I'm going to pop that off and see if it's just the grease has solidified. And if that's the case, it's a pretty easy fix. Clean it out, put some new lubrication in here, and hey, we may get this working first after all. Holy shit, this bastard is on tight. I mean, I've been prying at it, and don't want to break anything, but that thing is seized as all get out. So I think it's time to call in the big guns here, and hopefully I can loosen this up here. I think this can of WD-40 is probably just as old as the bloody turntable. I've been able to unstick this, and it's actually quite good now. I can't spin it all the way around because it's sitting on the floor, and the carpet bites into the mechanism underneath. So one-handed I can't spin this all the way, but it actually feels pretty good. So I'm going to put some lubricant in it as best I can. I'll put the circlip back on it, and I think the mechanism should definitely be strong enough to spin this. It's actually loosened up quite a bit, so I'm not entirely sure why it was seized. If it just stopped getting used for a while, but it's spinning fine now, so it's just a matter of cleaning everything up and making sure everything else is in order. But I think the auto mode is definitely going to work now, so that's a big win. I think another possibility is the reason to why it's so slow is this spring here. The wheel sat on that pin there, and I mean, it's still springy, but it feels a hell of a lot weaker than it should. And I think it may simply be there's not enough friction between the roller and the shaft of the motor. So I'm going to see if I can stop by my local electronics shop and see if I can get a replacement spring for this that'll give it a little bit more tension, because the more friction here, the better transmission of power, and more likely we are to get the right speed. Well, it seems like I've hit my very first snag that I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get out of in this thing. So I had this propped up against the wall, just leaning there at a slight angle, so I come back to it today, and look what has developed in the rubber. Unfortunately, just the sheer weight of this, just sort of sitting like that, has bent it, and it was just not capable of bending, and it cracked. This is extremely brittle. I mean, just attempting to bend it back, there's already another crack here. I mean, I can lay this flat and sort of let it sort itself out, but I don't expect this thing to go back on. I mean, yeah, I can sort of just set it down and ignore the crack, but I feel like this is probably going to shatter very soon, and it's probably not doing a terribly great job of being a rubber slit plate or grip plate. Yeah. It's probably not doing a very good job of a rubber grip plate anyway. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do here. The turntable is pretty small, and I mean, I have slip plates from newer turntables, but they're a little too big for this. So I'm going to see if I can maybe order some used one of this off eBay. Probably it won't be the right nameplate, but these are just two metal plates. So with luck, if this disintegrates, I could probably remove these and stick these on something else if I bought it. This is a low priority aesthetic thing, but it's something I'm going to have to now look for, unfortunately. Too bad. So now I've cleaned it all up, and it looks a lot whiter now. There's a lot of black sootish type stuff on it. Bottom's all clean now. I've reinstalled all the circlips, put the wheel back in. I put that spring in back temporarily, but I took measurements. I'm going to see if I can find a replacement for that, see if it's even needed, first of all. I've lubed everything up. All the important axles have been silicone greased. So I think it's time to reassemble this and see how it works. So I've got it plugged in, and the radio's on now, and it's kind of exactly as I'd feared and sort of as I knew. This spring is not strong enough at all. If I even just put a tiny amount of, I'm barely, like a hair is touching it, and it almost completely stops. Basically, you put the needle on and the record stalls. So, but if you push this over, you can get a pretty good transfer. So clearly, I need a stronger spring here in order to make this work. And I don't think I have anything on hand right now, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to test this out, unfortunately. What's that? Just happened all of a sudden. Treble and bass don't do anything. Sort of follows volume input. That'll be one of those electrical gremlins I'm gonna have to find. But yeah, that's disappointing. Well, I'm gonna see if I can find another spring for that temporarily. So in addition to the wheel nut having enough traction, the auto still doesn't engage, and I feel it's this this pin right here. There's a small catch underneath here which is driven by this, and this also appears to be seized. I thought this was driven a different way than it actually appears to now that I've sort of had it going. So I think this is also part of the problem. Not only was this seized, but I think this is also seized. So that's why I can't engage it. If I were to engage this, I'm pretty sure it makes a full revolution. You can see that if I have the needle up like that, and if I do this without, this is spinning the correct direction. Okay, no, apparently I was just a little bit retarded. It goes the other way, because it's the opposite. So when this spins, the arm comes up, it goes out, it hits the stop on that side of the arm there. It then comes over and goes down, which would contact the record. And it repeats as it goes around. And because the center shaft spins this way, that means that the other thing must spin this way, which is the way against that catch. And that catch is, I think, what disengages that after this is done one cycle. Because that spun this way, this gear spins the opposite direction, which means it spins this way. And that catch stops it from rotating in the wrong direction. I'll have to look into that catch. Okay, well, I figured out why the turntable auto isn't working, and I was totally right. This is what engages the mechanism. You see how there's a missing area there where there's no teeth, and that's the rest position, and I knew that. Now this little plastic piece on top of this little notch on the top here, basically, if you take this off, which is not always easy, but if we take that off, you'll notice that this is that pin that slides in it. And if I push this out, and you look down, you'll notice that down there's a little slot. And if I push the auto lever, that right there is what engages the mechanism. So when you pull the auto lever, that little pin moves outwards and supposed to push this top pin, which engages this cam on the bottom, which prevents any bad things from happening. And it also, at the same time, slides this piece into the shaft. And on the bottom of the drum, there's a notch, there's a catch on this side, and that's what kickstarts this gear spinning, and then it makes one full revolution and resets. So the problem is this joint right here is so seized that spring on the bottom, which is obviously so that when you try to push the auto, it happens to be that this is already where the cam is. It doesn't try to grind the two together, so it's a safety to protect the gears. But that spring is not enough to get it over this. And I mean, this is hard. I need a screwdriver almost to move this. I was able, it was pretty easy to free this, but I can't free this. So I feel like I'm gonna maybe have to revisit taking this whole gear out. It's gonna be a challenge. I think what I might do is put my heat gun on it, make it really hot, and then freeze spray the shaft and see if I can shrink the shaft and pull it up. because that thing is stuck on there like no tomorrow, and I have no way of really getting at this because it's all underneath. So that and that spring there. Hopefully when I fix the spring, this motor will have enough to keep this at the right speed and drive that. Well, I guess we'll find out when I get a new spring and take this out and get that off. Well, I got it off. The heat gun and the freeze spray always wins. I think I actually managed to loosen the rivet that holds this pin down. It's actually loose now. I've pried this so hard. I don't think I've ever seen a shaft stuck that hard before. But the good news is it's off, and I can access it. It's still hot as balls right now. Holy shit. I mean, I had to heat this thing for at least 3 or 4 minutes. But I don't know if it's just dissimilar metals. They've sort of chemically welded together. But I'm going to have to try and clean this as best I can. There's obviously a little bit of, that's not damage. It's just, I honestly want to think someone spilled the drink in this. Just given the kind of residue I've been finding, at least on the mechanisms underneath. So I'm gonna assume that's what's gummed this up, and that's probably what's stuck underneath this lever. So I'm gonna try, and now that I've got the circlip off this side, it's still hot to pick up. I'm gonna try and pop that out, clean in that race, probably put some actual grease in there to try and lube this up. Now I'll clean under here now that I can, and this is looking very doable now. Damn, I love the heat gun. I had to use it on this side there. I could literally put this up on a flat surface and stand on it, hammer it, it wouldn't matter. That was not coming out. All I know is these are damn hot and they're apart now, so I can get to work. Well, it's back together, and would you look at this. The motor still doesn't really have a hell of a lot of power, but there you go, and I'll push it again. Yeah, we still need to fix that wheel, but it's working. It's working exactly as it's supposed to. And if we put this arm down, okay. Okay, that was not expected. Okay, so apparently I'm just retarded. I forgot that when this arm is pushed all the way down, that signals that there's no more records, and therefore when you press auto it should stop, which it does. That's what it's been doing. So if I lift this arm up a little bit such that it indicates there's something in the record changer stack, and I now were to push this, it'll engage this. And if I push this around here, okay, that isn't tucked down. Oh, if I went the right way, it would help. It goes across, then it comes over, it'll hit the edge of the record depending on the size, and then it will go down and make contact with the record and reset. So it does work correctly when the arm is not all the way down, which is the mistake that I made, because it's a little bit confusing when you don't actually have a record on it to see. So the auto mechanism, at least mechanically, appears to be working. So I'm going to lubricate that now that I've got all the packed grease out. That was the problem. It was, I basically ran stuff through the inside of the bore and on the shaft, and I basically came up with a whole bunch of really caked on what was grease at one point. It had become more mud than anything else. So now that that's gone, I'm going to put some new silicone grease in there, and we should be all right. So as it stands now, I'm just going to leave the idler the way it is. There's really nothing I can do other than replace the idler. The spring is not the right way to go. This spring is fine by the way it retracts. This idler is, it still feels soft, but it's I don't think it's as soft as it needs to be, either that or it may be a bit worn. So I'm going to see if I can get this resurfaced. Basically, you ship these off, they dissolve the rubber and they mold new stuff on there based on the model of the turntable and the original dimensions it was supposed to be, and they ship it back to you. So I'm looking at probably, because I'm in Canada and all of the places that do it are international, probably $60–70 for this wheel. I mean, it's almost as much as I paid for the whole cabinet. I mean, it's something that eventually I'll do, but for now, I'm happy with the way the rest of the turntable turned out. I mean, really, all I have to do is balance the tone arm, make sure the tracking force is correct, and get a new rubber mat for the top. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this because these are also really, they don't make these in terms of like reproductions anymore that are at least this size. So I might just get one of those new like cork mats or something. It won't look original, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep the original look for a reasonable price, because I mean the turntable is going to cost me far more than what the entire unit cost me just to get this working, and like I said, this is a lower priority thing, so I'll fix the rest of it, and then maybe down the road I'll deal with this whenever the time is right. So I think that wraps up part 2, and in part 3 we're going to drop the chassis and move on to the real electronics, where I'm far more competent. So if you've been screaming at your computer for all the stupid stuff that I've been doing with this, I am a computer engineer, not a mechanical engineer, so sorry about that. We'll get onto that in the next part. So until then, thanks for watching.